I knew that. I was just going to answer her question. I could tell that was not going to work.
All right.
Good to go? Is this on? Yeah, it is. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to Temple Shalom's Martin Luther King Shabbat. We have a very special program tonight, and I'm glad you're here to join us. Joining me on the bima tonight are our special musician for the evening, Ben Norton, and board member Jennifer Jacobson, who's also one of the people responsible for part of this program tonight. So, welcome, and we begin on page 10 with Hine Matov, a melody by Rick Recht.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Thank you. I invite Jennifer to come light the candles for us. We're on page 3.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lechadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you. We'll continue now with Maya Hayom on page 10.
Somewhere here. Ah, there it is. Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Maya Hayom,
Shabbat Shalom. Ma'afehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
And now I invite everyone who is able to please rise as we open the ark for Baruch. Page 28.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
And we continue on the handout with Ben's original Ma'ariv Aravim.
So if you were with us last week on Zoom, we did this one, so you might remember it. If not, I'll kind of teach you the chorus, and maybe we can do that part together. This is how the chorus goes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro Ma'ariv aravim oh. I'll do that one more time, so maybe we can pick it up a little bit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro Ma'ariv aravim oh. So now the English verses are the exact same melody, just with English. Thank you, O God, for the evening skies and heavens up above. I thank you, God, for the beautiful nights and skies of blue. And it's back to the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro Ma'ariv aravim oh. Same melody with new English words. Blessed are you, Adonai, who creates the days anew. We give thanks to you for the stars, seasons, weeks, and all you do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro Ma'ariv aravim oh. And it's say Hebrew one more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim oh, oh, oh.
Wonderful, thank you. We continue on page 32 with Ahavat Olam. And this is Debbie Friedman's melody.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbeinu U'kameinu nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toracha U'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem negeyomam b'layla Negeyomam b'layla Ve'ahavatcha al tasir Mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo Yisrael
And we now turn to page 34 and rise for the watchword of our faith, Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam va'ed Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated as we continue on page 36, chanting the Ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
At this time, I'd like to invite Amy Shear to the podium. She will share a poem with us for Martin Luther King Day.
Okay, this is a poem by Amanda Gorman, and it's called In This Place, an American Lyric. Some of you may remember how astonishing this young woman is at the inauguration of President Biden. She's unbelievable. This is an original poem written for the inaugural reading of Poet Laureate Tracy K. Smith at the Library of Congress. Feel free to close your eyes if you wish. There's a poem in this place, in the footfalls, in the halls, in the quiet beat of the seats. It is here at the curtain of day where America writes a lyric you must whisper to say. There's a poem in this place, in the heavy grace, the lined face of this noble building, collections burned and reborn twice. There's a poem in Boston's Copley Square where protest chants tear through the air like sheets of rain, where love of the many swallows hatred of the few. There's a poem in Charlottesville where tiki torches string a ring of flame tight round the wrist of night, where men so white they gleam blue seem like statues, where men heap that long wax burning ever higher, where heather higher blooms forever in a meadow of resistance. There's a poem in the great sleeping giant of Lake Michigan, defiantly raising its big blue head to Milwaukee and Chicago, a poem begun long ago, blazed into frozen soil, strutting upward and aglow. There's a poem in Florida, in East Texas, where streets swell into a nexus of rivers, cows afloat like mottled buoys in the brown, where courage is now so common that 23-year-old Jesus Contreras rescues people from floodwaters. There's a poem in Los Angeles, yawning wide as the Pacific tide, where a single mother swelters in a windowless classroom, teaching black and brown students in Watts to spell out their thoughts so her daughter might write this poem for you. There's a lyric in California where thousands of students march for blocks, undocumented and unafraid, where my friend Rosa finds the power to blossom in deadlock, her spirit the bedrock of her community. She knows hope is like a stubborn ship gripping a dock, a truth that you can't stop a dreamer or knock down a dream. How could this not be her city, su nación, our country, our America, our American lyric to write a poem by the people, the poor, the Protestant, the Muslim, the Jew, the native, the immigrant, the black, the brown, the blind, the brave, the undocumented and undeterred, the woman, the man, the non-binary, the white, the trans, the ally, to all of the above and more? Tyrants fear the poet. Now that we know it, we can't blow it. We owe it to show it, not slow it, although it hurts to sow it when the world skirts below it. Hope, we must bestow it like a wick in the poet so it can grow, lit, bringing with it stories to rewrite. The story of a Texas city depleted but not defeated, a history written that need not be repeated, a nation composed but not yet completed. There's a poem in this place, a poem in America, a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth, to breathe hope into a palimpsest of time, a poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now, in the yellow song of dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric we are just beginning to tell.
Thank you, Amy. Had to stay silent for a moment to let it digest. We'll continue on page 39 responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. On page 40, let's join Ben and Dan Nichols, Micha Mocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot, oseh belev, Nora tehilot, oseh Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Ze'elianu ve'amru, Adonai, Imloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh.
Want to remind everyone that Dan Nichols will be coming to our congregation in a joint program with the temple on the last day of this month and the first day of next month. There'll be more details in the announcements and also in the weekly e-blast, so please check it out. Reservations are required for the meals, but everything is open. Okay, we will continue now with Hashkivenu, another of Dan's pieces, and it's on the handout.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Chamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Chamideinu shomreinu lechaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Chamideinu shomreinu lechaim, lechaim, lechaim.
At this time, I invite Jen Jacobson to come join me at the podium and read a piece, a Martin Luther King piece.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom. Tonight, as we honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we reflect on his unwavering belief in justice, equality, and the moral imperative to create a world where all individuals are valued and respected. Dr. King's dream was not limited to the civil rights of one group, but extended to building a beloved community, a vision of unity, equity, and inclusion for all humanity. This vision aligns powerfully with the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Dr. King's call for a beloved community celebrates the richness of diversity, bringing people together across lines of race, ethnicity, and faith. His fight for equity demanded systemic changes to dismantle barriers and ensure that marginalized communities had access to opportunities. And his commitment to inclusion reminds us that everyone deserves a seat at the table and the chance to be heard, affirming their dignity and worth. Yet today we face a troubling reality. Many companies, universities, and institutions are scaling back or abandoning their diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives. Legal challenges, such as the 2023 Supreme Court decision on affirmative action, have created a chilling effect, causing some to retreat out of fear and backlash. But this retreat is not just about the law. It reflects a broader societal shift, a fading sense of urgency about confronting systemic inequality as the memory of the protests following George Floyd's murder and Breonna Taylor's murder and the murders of others grow distant. We cannot allow this retreat to erase the progress made or diminish the work that is still needed. Diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging programs may not be perfect, but their goals are critical. They acknowledge that we do not live in a post-identity society, and they push back against the myth that meritocracy alone can address historic and ongoing inequities. I read an op-ed in the Washington Post this week written by Perry Bacon Jr., a Louisville resident. He notes that the decline of DEIB initiatives is rooted in flawed ideas, that discussing identity is divisive or that addressing inequities undermines fairness. In reality, ignoring identity-based disparities perpetuates inequity and inequality. Consider the barriers that still exist. Studies show unconscious bias in hiring, wage gaps for women, underrepresentation of people of color in leadership, and bigotry faced by transgender individuals and other marginalized groups. DEIB programs attempt to address these disparities, even in small ways, like ensuring companies recruit from historically Black colleges or creating inclusive spaces for unrepresented groups on campuses and in workplaces. As Jews, these principles resonate deeply with our values. The Torah commands us, tzedek, tzedek, turdof, justice, justice shall you pursue. Our tradition teaches us to repair the world, tikkun olam, and to stand as allies in the fight against injustice. When we honor each other's humanness and humanity, imagine the progress we could achieve. But we also must demand more. DEIB initiatives alone cannot solve deep-rooted structural issues. As Mr. Bacon highlights in his piece, we need bold systemic policies, universal programs like affordable childcare, housing, and healthcare that would disproportionately benefit those who have been historically marginalized. True justice requires addressing the economic and societal barriers that prevent so many from thriving. Dr. King once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." His words remind us that the pursuit of justice requires constant vigilance and action. I encourage all of us to honor his teachings by recommitting to the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our daily lives, standing against prejudice, fostering understanding, and advocating for policies that create real, lasting equity. As we have lit the candles tonight, let us carry Dr. King's light forward, illuminating the path toward justice, equity, and the beloved community that he envisioned. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for those words. Gives us some things to think about. We will continue with the central prayer of our service, the Amidah, on even-numbered pages from 46 to 52. Please rise as the ark is opened.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chastei Avot B'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atarav Lechoshia. Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem. Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed. Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim. Somech Noflim Verofech Cholim. Umatir Asurim. Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Hafar Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Memit Umechaye Umatmiach Yeshua V'nemanata L'Hachayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, Ukadoshim b'chol yom Yehalalu Chasela. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. We continue on page 59. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lihodot. And now we're going to go back to the handout for Ben's original Shalom Rav.
So, thus far in the service, it's sort of popped into my mind how, like, oddly applicable all of our prayers are to MLK weekend, right? We have Micha Mocha, thanking God for freedom, Hashkivenu, thanking God, for returning our souls, or hoping that God returns our souls and keeps us safe throughout the night. But at this point in our service, we kind of shift from thank you for all these freedoms and great things you've given us to please give us these great things, right? So Shalom Rav, asking God for eternal peace. And this melody has two parts. So I'm going to sing one part, and you're going to sing one part. And hopefully we can kind of accomplish with that harmony a little bit of the piece we're singing about. So I'll sing the first part, and then I'll teach you your part. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim leho leholam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim leho leholam. B'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. So this is your part right here. It goes, Shalom Rav. Let's try that. Shalom Rav. Beautiful. Next part. Al Yisrael. Your turn. Al Yisrael. This part's the same, different words. Amcha. Ready, you try. 3, 4. Amcha. And this part's also the same, but different words. Tasim leholam. So try to put that whole part together, starting at Shalom Rav. Ready? 3, 4. Shalom Rav. Al Yisrael. Awesome. Now you're going to do your part, and I'm going to try my part, and we'll put them together and see if it works. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Let's try the first part. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Now it comes to the part of our service where we think of those who are in need of our prayers for healing. On our list this week, Fran Skall, Paul Tackett, Diane Levine, Chassia Haberman, Adam Carrico, Sherry Davies, Chloe Hong, Leah Dolman, Joe Flaxman, Malia Willis, Rabbi Chester Diamond, Judy Yesowich, Scott Payton, Ellen Goldwyn, Linda Rennick, the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces, the men and women of the IDF, the hostages who've been held in Gaza for 469 days, the Israelis who continue to be displaced from their homes, and the innocent Palestinians who are suffering because of the war started by Hamas, the people of Ukraine. As my eyes meet yours, please feel free to add the names of those for whom you are praying. We continue with Misha Berach on page 253.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Our prayers so far have been communal. It's now time to take a few minutes for our own private thoughts and prayers. We pray silently.
Yehiyu leratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Vegoali, Vegoali, Vegoali. Yehiyu leratzon, imrefi, Vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Vegoali Vegoali Vegoali
I would like to invite Avery Kohlers to the bima now to introduce our guest speaker this evening. I'm going down so I can hear the speaker.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards is Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs at the University of Louisville. Before she... Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards is Vice Provost of Faculty Affairs at the University of Louisville. Before she held that position, she was Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, Culture, and Climate at in the College of Arts and Sciences, and she's held numerous positions of responsibility and honor throughout the community, the state, and the country, including being on the National Board of the ACLU, and she's put in long hours working with JCPS on restorative practices throughout the school system. And her education is that she was has her bachelor's degree from the Western Kentucky University and her master's degree from U of L. She fell in love with the place, as one does. And so after she got her doctorate at Virginia Commonwealth University, she eventually came back in 2011 and has been at U of L ever since. And people who are in positions of responsibility and honor, sometimes they're there because they dot I's and cross T's and they get things done. Sometimes they're there because they have a vision for the organization that is, a kind of leadership vision. And sometimes they're there because they have a moral vision and integrity that makes the whole place better for everybody involved. And only once in a while do you get somebody who's the unicorn who has all three of those, and that is Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards. So ever since she's been Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, sorry about this, being called into the Vice Provost's office is not like being called into the Vice Principal's office, but instead it's going to the place from which justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Cherie Dawson-Edwards.
Good evening. I was not expecting that, but I appreciate hearing that. Sometimes you get into roles, you don't know what people think, but I am glad to know, at least Avery, hopefully Karen also thinks that too, that I remain the advocate that I've always been, and that the tools, the toolkit that I have to do my social justice work out in the community and across the nation. I've certainly tried to keep that in mind in the role that I have in the provost office at the University of Louisville. So I am very pleased to be here. I'm actually honored to be here. I didn't really know what to expect. I'll be honest with you. I never say no to Avery, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. I don't know what I'm doing, but like, I'll be there. But I can say that just sitting through this evening with you all, I've felt, even though I don't know a lot, but just reading along with you all, hearing the poem that was read, hearing the words that you spoke about, DEI, B, and MLK, I feel really comfortable. And so I will be quiet about my reflection and talk to you a little bit about what I've titled The Dream, Restoring Hope, Healing, and Justice in Today's World. So today we gather to reflect on the ways we can build a more just and compassionate world through restoration, hope, healing, and justice. A world that not only acknowledges its flaws, but takes active steps to heal and transform. As we consider the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we are reminded of his unwavering commitment to justice, his profound belief in the power of empathy, and his vision for a beloved community. A society rooted in love, equity, and mutual understanding. As I was doing the final touches to this, speech yesterday evening, I turned on the news, and I don't usually turn on the news because the news is sad, and there's enough sadness going around. So I don't usually do it, but I turned it on. I turned on the local news. And in the background of, me looking at my computer and just really thinking about what I wanted to share with you all tonight, I heard about the Muhammad Ali Center's new 2025 Compassion Report. Have you heard about that? So then I got really down a rabbit hole of looking at it. But I thought that it was relevant to what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm just going to share a couple of bullet points that they found in that new study. They found that more than 60% of Americans believe compassion has declined since 2020, a perception that they say is likely influenced by our evolving media habits and where we get our news. Polarization is present in 30% of American cultural discourse, with its influence expected to remain over the next 2 to 3 years. So my curiosity and nerdiness just had me go deeper and deeper. And so I'm gonna sprinkle some of these bullet points throughout the conversation today. But I thought it was interesting that they noted that as Americans increasingly curate their own truths through personalized news consumption, finding common ground has become more and more challenging. Nearly half of the survey respondents reported avoiding dating people with opposing political beliefs, underscoring how polarization is even impacting interpersonal relationships. I knew my tablet was going to do this. I didn't have time to print it. So I was like, I'll use technology, which is not, hold on. Okay, there we go. So they also said that, interestingly, with all of that going on, online searches for compassionate inquiry have surged by 4,000% in the past years, which they find probably signals an appetite for actually bridging divides through dialogue and understanding. So while there was a lot in that report about polarization and interpersonal relationships, they did bring hope that people are interested in dialogue and understanding. And so I thought that spoke well to what I wanted to talk to you all about today. So Avery talked about my background with the ACLU, that I did work with restorative justice in the school system. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the concept of restorative justice. And many of you may have already heard what this is, but I'd like to embed it in thinking about MLK's dream of our beloved community, healing, hope, and justice. So restorative justice is a philosophy. A lot of people think it's a program, but it's a philosophy that one buys into. It centers relationships that requires that we treat people with respect, hold ourselves accountable for our actions, repair harm when it occurs, face those that we've harmed, acknowledge the impact of a wider community, and reintegrate the person who caused this harm back into the community once they make amends. It's rooted in the criminal legal system, which I'm a professor of criminal justice and social change, since Avery gifted me the social change programs about, 8 years ago? Has it been that long? Yeah. Okay, so it's rooted in the criminal legal system, and it's a paradigm shift from traditional models of punishment. So if you think about our criminal justice system, you broke this rule, you should get this punishment, right? Restorative justice asks us to think broader and think about community and think about who is impacted by these harms. So it's a continuum. And I was really interested in hearing you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because now in the continuum of restorative justice, the way that it can show up, the first preventative phase of restorative justice is equity and identity work. And so for people to acknowledge our different identities and understand each other better. And so it moves from equity and identity work to community building, to mediation, and to reintegrating people who have committed some serious wrongdoing or conflict. Restorative justice is simple. People think it's hard because it's changing a paradigm, but it's as simple as remembering how you spoke to the customer service rep on a frustrating call. And even if you can't make amends to them, working on yourself in order to not do that again. It's as simple as making a harmful assumption about someone, and instead of writing it off and say, I didn't intend to do that, you instead acknowledge the impact, apologize, and promise to do better. It's as simple as having a mediated conversation with someone who has harmed you by their actions, allowing for accountability and forgiveness. Dr. King believed in the power of love as a force for social change. He spoke of agape, a love that is unconditional, selfless, and redemptive. It is this kind of love that fuels restorative justice. It is the belief that every person, no matter their action, holds the potential for growth and redemption. It is the recognition that our fates are interconnected, that we rise and fall together as a community. So I ask that you imagine a garden that has been neglected. Some flowers are thriving, but others are struggling, overshadowed by weeds and deprived of sunlight. I was sharing earlier that my son went to college in August, and he's about 6 hours away, and I thought, what am I gonna do? I need another dog. I need to take care of something. And so when I started writing this and thinking about plants and flowers, that's what I do. I have a plant room now. I have a whole bunch of plants. Now, some of my plants need they're struggling, but imagine this garden, that needs restoration and needs our help. Restorative justice is like a gardener who comes in with a careful hand and a mindful heart, not simply pulling out the weeds, but understanding why they grew there in the first place. The gardener tends to each flower, giving it space to grow, nurturing the soil, and ensuring that every plant has what it needs to thrive. In this way, restorative justice isn't just about removing the damage or punishing the wrongdoer. It's about restoring balance in the garden. It's about ensuring every flower, regardless of past condition, has an opportunity to grow in harmony. Through this nurturing process, the garden doesn't just survive, it flourishes, becoming a place of beauty, balance, and resilience. This shift in thinking and action is powerful. It helps people see their mistakes as learning opportunities and not defining moments. And in turn, it creates an environment where innovation, creativity, and trust can thrive. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is what happens when we bring restorative justice into our community. At its core, restorative justice is an act of empathy and compassion. It requires us to step into the shoes of others to see the world not just through their own eyes, but through the other's eyes. It demands that we ask what harm has been done, who has it affected, and how can we together make this right? It is not easy. It requires vulnerability, humility, and a willingness to engage in uncomfortable conversations. But it's through these very challenges that transformation occurs. Empathy, too, is a cornerstone of King's teachings. He urged us to develop a kind of dangerous unselfishness, to care for others not because it benefits us, but because it is the right thing to do. In a world often divided by fear and misunderstanding, empathy becomes a revolutionary act. It bridges gaps between us and allows us to see the dignity and worth in every person. Empathy as a driver of restorative justice and resolution can only occur if the parties of a conflict or an argument or misunderstanding can begin to empathize with each other. So I'm going to take a moment and talk about 3 components of empathy, because I'm a professor and I can't not teach. I can't just talk, right? So there's effective empathy, which allows one to relate to what others may be feeling. There's cognitive empathy, and that is introspective exercises in assessing one's own feelings. And then there's compassionate empathy, or some people might call that empathic action. And that is taking action to support another person. So it kind of combines effective empathy and cognitive empathy, and it puts it together and says, now what do we do next? How can I help fix this? It's been working all day. So one of my favorite concepts to teach about and practice is something called intellectual empathy. And I got this from a book by an author named Maureen Linker many years ago when I started teaching our restorative justice class at U of L. To me, this is a productive way to handle tumultuous times and difficult conversation. But intellectual empathy is an awareness of the need to imaginatively put oneself in the place of others so as to genuinely understand them. It's also called vicarious introspection. It's commonly described as the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, but as them. So many times we look at people and we're like, oh, if I were them, I would do that. But what you should be doing is saying, if I were them with their stuff, in their context, and with their identities and their lived experiences, I might understand why they didn't do that, right? So the challenging part is to make sure you are assessing how they would feel in their shoes, not how you would feel in their shoes. To have intellectual empathy is to be able to accurately reconstruct the viewpoints and reasoning of others, and to reason from premises, assumptions, and ideas other than one's own. We could all partake and receive a little bit more intellectual empathy, right? Absolutely. So when we employ empathy, in restorative justice, we start with what's called effective statements. And that is when there is discord. We start from a place of inquiry, not accusation. And instead of asking, why did you do that? You begin with, what happened? You know, it's interesting, like every other slide is like moving. So I would say at this point, since my tablet isn't working very well, no MLK programming keynote can end without a call to action, right? We can't just talk about stuff. We have to think about what we're gonna do next. So what is the call to action tonight? I'm gonna quote President Barack Obama, who says, change only happens when ordinary people get engaged. But where do we start? Where do the ordinary people start? So a couple of years ago, I don't know if you all are on social media, but like people put up memes and you're like, oh, who wrote that? That's fabulous. I now know who wrote this, and her name is Ijama Yomabinyo. And she says, start now. Start where you are. Start with fear. Start with pain. Start with doubt. Start with hands shaking. Start with voice trembling, but start. Start and don't stop. Start where you are with what you have. Just start. So I go back to that a lot because sometimes we get stuck, right? And it's like, what do I do next? I tried this thing. I tried to reason with this person. I tried to have this conversation, and it went nowhere. Where do I go next? And her quote would say, just keep trying and keep starting. So we need to start engaging with people who don't know where to start and who don't know what to do. The people doing the work should stop criticizing those who don't do the work the way they want them to do it. We need to collectively act, which means we need to understand each other's strengths and strategize based on that. Restorative change does not happen in the silos we create. Change requires multi-level tactics, multiracial, multi-organizational, pretty much everything. As hard as it might feel, I call on us to do it anyway. I call on us to be open and forgiving when someone makes a mistake. I call on us to engage with people who are not like us, who might not think exactly the way that we do. Imagine a society where restorative justice is not an exception, but the norm. I'm so sorry, you all. Imagine schools where conflicts are resolved through dialogue and understanding rather than punishment. Imagine communities where harm is met with not with isolation, but with opportunities for growth and reconciliation. Imagine a justice system that prioritizes healing over healing over vengeance. This vision is not out of reach. It is a reflection of Dr. King's dream, a dream that calls us into action. As we honor his legacy, let us remember that justice is not a static goal, but a living practice. It is something we must pursue every day, in every interaction, and within every system. Restorative justice and empathy are not just tools for addressing harm, they are pathways to the beloved community Dr. King envisioned. To close, I'm going to bring us back full circle to the beginning where I was talking about that compassion report. And another interesting point that they made in this report is this. Neuroscience has shown us something truly remarkable. When individuals engage in intentional compassion-building activities, the effects extend far beyond themselves. These practices lead to measurable improvements in empathy, fostering deeper connections with others. They inspire compassionate behavior, transforming the way we interact and care for one another, and perhaps most importantly, they ignite a stronger sense of community, reminding us that our actions, no matter how small, can ripple outward and create lasting change. So let us commit ourselves to this work, not just in words, but in our actions. Let us listen more deeply, love more boldly, and lead with compassion. And let us remember that the journey toward justice is one we must take together, holding fast to the belief that, as Dr. King said, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Thank you.
Call on Jennifer now for announcements.
Thank you so much. That was really, really inspirational. I would like a copy. Really, that was just terrific. Sheila stole part of my thunder about Dan Nichols, but I'll get to that.
You can repeat it.
Geez, Sheila. All right, here we go. Oh, look, it's in the announcements. I would like to express my thanks. See, they have it written out for me so I don't screw up. They don't trust me. But thank you again for your beautiful remarks, Dr. Dawson Edwards. And Avery, thanks for inviting her. Great job. I want to thank the members of our Tikkun Olam committee, chaired by Avery, for participating in tonight's service and for sponsoring tonight's oneg. There's some really amazing food next door, so I really hope everyone can stay. Next door in the Kling Auditorium. Shabbat services will be held tomorrow at 10:30. Our next Lunch and Learn will be held on Tuesday, January 21st at Limon y Sal on Brownsboro Road. For those of you who do not speak Spanish, it looks like Lyman and Sal, but it is not. It's Limon y Sal. I'll put my glasses on. Oh, it's Sol. It says Sal here, Sheila. Typo. Oh, it is Saul. All right. Man, there's so much pressure. There's backseat driver there.
It means lemon and salt.
I know, that's what I said, lemon and salt. Our speakers will be Eden and Kyla, the two Israeli high school Shin Shinyot, who are spending a year in Louisville before going to the Army. They will share about their respective families' Aliyah story, life in Israel, serving the Army, and more. Please RSVP to Slava. All right, Dan Nichols. He's amazing. Has anyone not ever seen Dan Nichols perform? Oh, he's so good. Really, he's so good. And Ben Norton, by the way, you're freaking fabulous. And you obviously know Dan Nichols because, yeah, you got a good vibe like Dan. Anyway, Dan Nichols is coming to Louisville to lead us in Shabbat services and Havdalah on January 31st and February 1st, two days. Friday services are going to be held at the temple, and then on Shabbat morning, he'll lead a meditation Shabbat here at Temple Shalom, followed by lunch. And Saturday evening, he will come together for dinner, Havdalah, and a song session and concert. And please RSVP to attend both dinners and lunch. So there are a few opportunities to get to see him. So come to all of them. All right, if you like playing Mahjong or want to learn, that's the game with the tiles. People don't know much. Join us here on Sunday, January 26th from 2 to 4. Please RSVP to Slava. There's a theme. If you want to, please RSVP to Slava. It's never too late to learn how to play Mahjong, by the way, if you don't know how to play. So, the engagement team is planning a talent show. Oh, a talent show. That's right. I heard about that. To be held in May. If you have a family-friendly talent, that's funny, that you'd like to share with our members, please contact. What do you have if you have a family unfriendly talent? I don't know who you talk to, but I'll let you know. And you can look forward to our email blast that will contain all this information so you can read it again. But it's not as fun as having me say it. Thanks again to Ben for leading us in music. Oh my gosh, so good. So good. So good. Are you going to be at Gucci this summer? No, you're not. Were you there last summer? What'd you say? At Gucci? Were you at Gucci last summer? But you weren't, not next summer. Bummer for my kid. I'm Carson's mom. Did you know that? Yeah, I know. I get that look a lot. Carson Blumenthal with the mouth. Yeah. It's not shocking that we're related because he can talk as his mother can. Hey, Sheila, thank you for leading tonight's service. Thank you. Thank you. Rabbi has the flu, and a late ad, so does Lee. So Lee is not here either. They're down for the count. And Lori Kaplan and Carrie, her right-hand man, thank you for streaming tonight. Thank you so much. So remember to join us in the auditorium for Kiddush Motzi and the Oneg. Shabbat Shalom. We're almost done. Turning it back over to Sheila.
I want to add my thank you to Dr. Dawson Edwards for inspiring remarks. Thank you so much for sharing with us and for being here. And to all of the Tikkun Olam committee and those who participated in today's service, thank you. It really does take the whole community to do it. We're going to continue with Aleinu on the bottom of 282. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shel ho asanu kuye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shel ho sam chelkenu kachem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu
284.
Shehu notei shamayim ve'osed haaretz umoshav yekaro b'masha'ayim hima'al Ushchinatu zo, begovhei meromim, Hu Eloheinu einod, emet molkeinu efesulato, Kakatuv betorato, beyadata hayom, vashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu ha-Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, ve'al ha'aretz, mitachat ein od.
287.
V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad Ushemo echad.
Please be seated. We continue with a reading before Kaddish on page 290. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. It is a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. This week, we remember the following yahrzeits: Mary Lou Binzer, Alfred Helft, Betty Marcus Isaacs, Zalman Comer. And if I read a yahrzeit for you, please, someone that you're remembering, please stand when the name is read. Nancy Marks, Louis Moseson, Jesse R. Newman, Herbert Skall, Joseph Snyder, George Weiner, Emma Wittenberg. And we rise and continue with Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechom v'yamechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'yisman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'alev v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say amen. And I want to reemphasize, you can be seated. I want to reemphasize, please join us in the auditorium afterwards for Kiddush and Motzi and Anoning. And thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here. We're going to conclude tonight with We Shall Overcome, which is on the handout.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. overcome someday. The Lord will see us through. The Lord will see us through. The Lord will see us through someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid of today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we are not afraid today. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you for being here, and please join us in the auditorium.